All right, so in this video, I wanted to show you really quickly some of the built-in plotting capability that's available to you in pandas. So I'm going to import pandas, read in that store sales forecasting, DataFrame, do my column standardization, and let's look at the first two rows. All right, so let's imagine that we would like to know, well, how many sales, so the count of sales by each one of these categories, and do some real quick visualization to kind of help us understand which subcategory has the highest number of sales. All right. So first off, what we need to do is get that data. So right now, if I were to look at our data, we've got data.shape, 2,121 rows, each of these corresponding to a particular sale of, some type of furniture or some type of whatever these subcategories are, right? And we do have a quantity right here. So what we're assuming is each one of these rows, like in this case, they bought, 2 bookcases, right? Or in this case, they bought 3 things that were of a subcategory chair. All right, and let's look real quick and let's see the unique subcategories that we have. So I'm going to grab that subcategory column, get the unique things. So we've got bookcases, chairs, tables, and furnishings. All right, so let's imagine that we want to come up with some type of a visualization showing us, okay, what's the unique number of bookcases that we sold, chairs, tables, and furnishings. Just again, maybe a simple like bar plot. Now, I am going to have a playlist that looks fairly in-depth into 2 common plotting libraries in Python. That would be Matplotlib and Seaborn. But what I'm going to show you here is that, if you're just trying to get some general intuition about what's going on in the data, maybe do some really quick visualizations, Pandas allows you to do that right from a DataFrame object, right? And it's actually using Matplotlib under the hood. So I'll show you this in that Matplotlib playlist later. You can actually generate things with pandas and then hand them off to Matplotlib and kind of make things look a little bit nicer. But you can do some generic plotting or some very easy, simple plotting right from pandas. All right, so that's what we're going to look at. So what we want to do is find the number of unique sales by this. And so essentially what we want to do is I'm going to group on subcategory, and then I want to sum the quantity, right? So I'm going to figure out what's the total quantity sold for each one of those subcategory entries. All right, so if we remember back in the video that's looking on grouping and aggregation, we could do something like, well, data.group by, and let's get subcategory, and then I'm going to do .ag, and then I'm going to say total sales. Let's say total quantity sold. That's a little more explicit here. And what we want to do is we want to take the quantity column and I want to sum. All right, so that looks fantastic. All right, so we can see here that our furnishings, we tend to have the highest amount of sales, followed by chairs, tables, and then bookcases. All right, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this as quantity by subcategory. All right, and if we look at this quantity by subcategory, if I just view it, we can see this is actually a pandas data frame. We have index labels, which would in this case map to our subcategories, our unique subcategories. That'd be bookcases, chairs, furnishing, and tables. And then we have a single column called total quantity sold, which we named right here in that .ag method. All right. And what I wanted to show you in this video is in this case, we have a data frame, and a data frame will have a .plot. And I believe this is true of a series as well. It has a .plot method. All right, and there's a lot of arguments that we can provide to, really, do some customization. I would say not to the level that you will if you go ahead and bring in Matplotlib and really start working with the figure and axis object in Matplotlib. Again, another playlist that's going to be on. but we do have a fairly good amount of options that we can look at. So first off, let's just see what happens if we just call dot plot. All right, so what it's doing in this case is it's giving us a line plot, right? So we can see in our original data, so bookcases, there was 868 quantity, tables, 1,241. So yeah, we can see that that roughly maps to those various areas, right? So 868, 1,241. The problem with this, right, is we would typically not use a line plot for this type of data, right? Because in this case, we have discrete categories, right? We have bookcases, chairs, furnishings, tables. We have 4 categories, but a line plot, right? So it draws these continuous lines. So it almost seems to indicate that there's something like right here in the middle of bookcases and chairs, when in fact that's not true. So instead of, you know, a line plot, what we would love to have is maybe a bar plot. Well, can we do that? Well, let's look at our arguments. One of the arguments that's very helpful is we have a kind, right? So we can specify kind and provide one of these strings right here to get different types of plots. So if we want a bar plot, a vertical bar plot, so the bars are going from bottom to top, right? I could say, well, let's do kind is equal to bar. All right, so now we've got a very, very quick visualization that's saying, okay, well, here's your various subcategories, and then the total quantity sold. It's got mapped, in this case, it's showing us that as a legend in that plot. Let's see if we can customize this a little bit more. I mean, of course, we're going to do a lot more of this customization when we get to matplotlib, but let's see what we can do with this dot plot. So if we did have a data frame and we had multiple columns, we could specify which columns we wanted to be on the vertical and the horizontal axes with the X and Y. We can specify the kind of plot that we want to do. Again, AX right here, when we get to matplotlib, we'll understand more about what we're talking about with this AX, but this is where we can do that interface with matplotlib. Let's see, so we can give it a figure size. We can give it a title. And let's see, we can give it some X limits, some Y limits, an X label and a Y label. Right, so we can do a lot of these things. So let's look at a few of those. Right, so we said that we could do a figure size. So this is a tuple of width and height in inches. So right now this plot's a little bit big. I can't see my code at the same time. So let's see if we can make this fit in. So width and height. So I'm going to say 6 and 4 maybe. All right, let me bring that down just a little bit more. So maybe 5 and 3. All right, so this is starting to get to where I can see it in my code. We had a Y label. So we could say that this is going to be my Y label. Let's see, what's the argument name? I can't remember it off the top of my head. That's going to be our Y label. So let's put that there and we'll say this is going to be our total quantity. All right, so now we've got that. So maybe we don't need this legend. Can we do anything with that legend? Let's just look through our arguments. Lots of arguments that we can do. Let's see, I don't see one right now for a legend. Oh, there it is. It's a legend, so it can be a Boolean. So, okay, so maybe we can do legend is equal to false, because it's a Boolean, and turn that off. Right? I mean, we could go through a lot of these different ones. So again, you do have a good bit of flexibility from right here within pandas to make these plots look a little bit better. One other that I think it actually interfaces again with matplotlib. So if I'm doing bar plots, I think another option that you have is edge color to really kind of set those things apart. But this is really handy, right? Because if you're working with data and you just want to kind of do, you know, a really quick visualization to kind of help you see, you know, get some understanding of what's going on, maybe even troubleshoot something, this is perfect. All right, let's look at one other type of plot. So first off, let's get our data down here again. And I'm going to do data.head. And let's just go ahead and get 4 rows. All right, so interestingly, right, we've kind of noted in a few of these videos that some of these profits are very small, or negative in this case. So it seems that we're losing money. Let's just say that we wanted to do a scatter plot that's showing the trends in profit here, or see if there's any relationship between profit and this discount column. So I'm assuming that this discount column is representing like a percentage off. So in this case, it might be a 45% discount, hence the fact that we're losing money. So let's just see how we would do that. So in this case, I've got the discount and the profit columns. I want to do essentially like a scatter plot of these two, seeing how profit changes as discount varies. Right? So how could we do this? Well, I could do my data.plot. All right. I'm going to say the kind is going to be a scatter plot. So I'll say kind here. Let's do a scatter plot. All right, on the X, let's put discount. So I can put in column names because in this case, we're calling plot on the data frame. So it knows that, hey, data is the data frame object. So if you want to specify column names as X and Y, it will pull those or the values for those directly from that data frame. So I can say X is equal to discount, Y equal to profit. Let's go ahead and do a fig size. Let's go 4 by 4. And let's just see what that looks like. Right, so we can definitely see there is some type of relationship here, even though it's not necessarily, I guess, a linear relationship. But when the discount's 0, right, we tend to be profitable, right? So looking over here, most of those values, so those are the profit values from individual sales. If we look all the way to the left there, when the discount is 0.0, they tend to be positive. And then as we move towards the right, where we're getting steeper and steeper discounts, we do see those values decreasing. All right, but again, this is a scatter plot, really kind of straightforward and simple to do. All right, so that's pandas.plot. Again, there's a lot of flexibility in there. And again, in a future playlist, we're going to look at matplotlib and Seaborn, which can leverage these plotting capabilities from pandas because they're extremely useful. It's just if we go to matplotlib, oftentimes we'll get a little bit more flexibility in what we can show, what we can lay out, what we can customize. But again, this is extremely helpful for I'm working with data. I want to get a little bit of a sense of what's going on without having to bring in matplotlib and do this boilerplate code to kind of get everything set up. So you can just take your data object, do a dot plot, and get some sense of what's going on. So super helpful. And that is the end of this video.